Hi people, me again, of course, as always, Andrew as usual, Moino Ravenberg. Yeah, as always, Andrew as usual, you can tell what time it is. I'll be discussing the second Pentacle of Mars. Now, before I continue, the article that this video will be embedded in on my website, you can find it linked in the description below, just for good measure's sake and for the sake of being organized, obviously, which is my default MO, my default modus operandi. Um, and another thing is that I also already brought this pentacle up in the past, but purely for the purposes of giving an example, specifically in the section of the main article, um, specifically named or called the utilization of the order, the utilization of the pentacles from the Greater Key of Solomon, Order of the Pentacles. For good measure's sake, I'm gonna, in case someone that is watching this video hasn't read that or seen that or any of the linked videos, I'm gonna link that in the thingy as well, in the description of this video, so that you have an overview of everything. If you don't even know what pentacles are, just an example. That is the primordial article. But most of you watching this, my followers, already know what time it is now. As I was saying, let's get down to business. Second Pentacle of Mars is mentioned in the aforementioned workbook. This pentacle serveth with great success against all kinds of diseases if it be applied unto the afflicted part. And then you've got the editor's note, the letter He in the angles of the hexagram. Within the same, the names Yod He Vav He, Yod She Vav He, Yeshua, the mystic Hebrew name for Joshua or Jesus, formed of the ordinary Yod He Vav He letters, with the letter SH placed therein as emblematical of the Spirit and Elohim. Around it is the sentence John the first, paragraph 4 or verse 4, hyphen, in him was life and the life of light and in him was life and the life was the light of man. This may be adduced as an argument of the greater antiquity of the first few mystical verses of the Gospel of St. John. Um, yeah, and you won't find a more fine or a finer example than I having this tattoo itself. This is one of the very first tattoos that I put. Me being a lover of Mars and all, this is the one you're looking for. This is exactly what it looks like, and everything you heard regarding the editorial note is everything you heard regarding the editorial note. It's hard to display it properly. Damn it. Let me see. Yeah, that's the closest you can come to seeing it. In any case, um, I have an older video showcasing all of my tattoos, up to the date, up to that date that that video was published, and or similar, and or what they're like. You're also more than welcome to check it out. Wait until the end screen. You'll see what I used to look like back then. In any case. Yeah, I have this pentacle tattooed. It's one of the very first pentacle, and it's also the reason why I do not get sick. So it works like a charm. And of course, it only grew stronger as I grew stronger, or better said, its effect that courses through my hypothetical ast. Just plain that courses through me. Now, um, it has been like a time that I was legitimately sick. I cannot remember. The only time I legitimately got sick, where I suffered from any illness, like the average person, a mundane illness that I needed to go to the doctor to, like for a fever or the flu. Nah, like legitimately just being sick. Nope, nothing. Any physical ailment, nothing. It's been years by my standards, lifetimes, or by my measurements, so to speak. The last time I'm briefly trying to remember was 20. It was before I got into the occult. Before 2016 in any case. Maybe 2014, 2015, and 2016 most likely. Um, in any case, before I had this pentacle put on. So in addition to all the other uh, energies in my life through my occult practice, ignore this cough. It's just nothing. It's just because I ate something not too long ago. I'm just saying because it's not an illness, obviously. I haven't gotten sick. It's 2025, so it's officially been like 9 years since I legitimately had to go to the doctor. Any other times that I had to visit a physician or a medical specialist of any kind, or any other time, and or any other time I suffered from something that can be construed by the average person, or better said, misconstrued as an illness, is um is because of my practice. My practice essentially triggered something. And this is something that has happened in the past regularly. By regularly, I mean once a year, once every 2 years. Usually it has to do with an upgrade, drastic increase in energy and power, and something like that is like a hypothetical side effect. And it's just overall, not just karmically, it's overall unavoidable. So essentially you have to take the hit in order to advance, as is the case by default, uh, applicable to just life and existence overall, honestly, as a human being. And you, and in those cases, I, what happens is that I display symptoms of an illness without actually being sick. So if you were to like feel me, etc., or you were to like run a blood test or something, you would see that, nah, I'm healthy. Like there's nothing specifically wrong with me. There is nothing that can be physically deduced biologically overall. Um, and yet I still have all the symptoms of, for example, a fever. And I know that, it's just my magical practice, just a magic. And my work is doing its work. It's doing its job. Um, and that's just an example. It's like the finest example you'll find, because before I recorded this video, I was like, wait a minute, I have this pentacle. I have this pentacle. It's been so long, like almost a decade, that I put this pentacle on me. Yeah, anyways. Now let's move on to the properties. I already gave an example and you heard the description. The properties, by the way, the pentacle, it's a nice looking pentacle. Yeah, all of them are nice looking, but its niceness is due to its simplicity, in my opinion. Just wanted to put that out there like an FYI. In any case, regarding its properties, for people that wanted to work with this pentacle or apply this pentacle, you already heard it. Based on the descriptions, you need to apply it to the afflicted part, specifically the part of your body, and it is for physical illnesses only. Let that be noted. It's not for mental illnesses. It's primarily, at the very least, just overall meant for just that, for physical illnesses, afflictions of any kind. So a wound, you name it. And now I'm going to go into detail based on my research, what I found out. Now, this pentacle is for mundane illnesses. So illnesses that, generally speaking, over the counter, abbreviated OTC drugs can handle. You name it. You want some examples of mundane illnesses? Think of diarrhea, think of an infection, think of a fever, think of a cold, anything along those lines. Anything that is not life-threatening, a wound, just a cut, something like that, honestly. And of course, you need to do the default things, like the way this applies to magic by default, as practitioners especially are already aware of. You need to do what you were to do if you were the average person. So don't just think, oh, okay, I'm going to put this thing on a huge gash that I have on my hand, up, and it'll be fine. No, you need to still go to the doctor, seek medical help and whatnot. That's where the pentacle comes in. When you put that pentacle on, it will heal you a lot quicker, okay, depending on just overall, just in general. But obviously, it also depends on a myriad of other factors, a plethora of other factors, such as if you practice the occult or not, you practice magic, if so, your skill level, and it just goes on, so many other factors. But in general, from a neutral perspective, that's exactly what it's going to do. If not, it will automatically guide you and or redirect you to methods, whether they're simplistic or elaborate or anything else in between, that will heal you quicker than, for example, compared to the average person. The average person would like stay stuck with a gash like that, healing for 4 weeks, which you would be cut in half, like 2 weeks, and it would already be healed for like 75%. It's just an example. That's how that pentacle works, and that's how to deal with it. And understand obviously that this is a Martian pentacle by default. The planet Mars and all of its associative energies are by default very volatile, both in a good as well as in a bad way, as is the case by default. You can't have the good without the bad. So in some cases, applicable to some individuals, you might notice a bunch of side effects If you, for example, use this pentacle, you might also notice that you're more prone to having aggression directed at you, or being more aggressive, being more tempestuous in nature. So being a bit more, having more of an edge to your personality, not permanently necessarily. I mean, in the long term, if you like work with a pentacle at a heavy set level, yeah, or on a heavy set basis, then yeah. But generally speaking, no. Uh, and let me see, what else can I say? So yeah, so that doesn't mean not that doesn't mean that in relation to what I just said, doesn't mean that hey, like heavy-handed shit is going to happen to you, bluntly put. No. Okay, it's just that you might notice all of a sudden that people are a bit more agitated with you compared to the usual, or they're just a bit annoyed by you for some reason, and that some reason is the pinnacle, or vice versa, or both, or a combination of both, in part or fully, or anything else in between, and everything else in between. You'll notice that, hey, I feel more annoyed. Someone asks you something, yeah, what is it? Usually, and you're not that kind of person. You're usually a kind, soft, generous soul, so to speak. Yeah, stuff like that can happen. Um, as for the properties, again, it just goes on. Check the article for people that can't put their finger on mundane illnesses, for example. And you really are like, okay, so can you give me like a drop down of mundane illnesses and whatnot? I just attached an article from some Googling to a website called northshore.org. Again, things like fatigue, colds, upper respiratory conditions, headaches, rashes, infections, back pain, you name it. Okay, these are things that most people in the world at some point have had difficulty with. But of course, in most cases, at the very least, most cases, the problem just solves itself seemingly. You know, your body just naturally heals itself, which is what it's supposed to do. But this pinnacle accelerates that whole process, especially applicable to practitioners, and again, especially to skilled practitioners of the art. Now, continuing with its properties. Now, second question. Serious illnesses, like really serious illnesses, things that could potentially be life-threatening. Think of kidney failure, think of issues with any of your internal organs, heart disease, liver disease, think of asthma, although it's not literally life-threatening, like highly advanced respiratory issues. Think of cancer, you name it. Think of any terminal disease, whether it's seemingly terminal, long-term, or just plain outright terminal. This pinnacle, unfortunately, will not be able to help you with that. It is considerably, heavily restricted in that regard or aspect. If it can help you, then expect to see minimal results at best, like 30% at absolute best. And even that 30% is only hypothetically speaking, far-fetched, figuratively speaking, far-fetched. Um, and yeah, for the rest, that's pretty much it. Keep in mind, even if the pentacle doesn't heal you directly, as is the case by default with magic, the pentacle will redirect you towards the best available option. Uh, think of all of a sudden an idea coming to you, or an idea coming to you to read a medical journal or to do some Googling, and then seemingly coincidentally you find the website of a surgeon that can help you in some situation. And it just goes on. Again, especially practitioners know how this kind of stuff works. So that's how it works. If the technique in question cannot help you in a direct fashion or manner, it will do so through other avenues and or channels, provided that those are available and or present. If not, then there's nothing that can be done. You can't pull anything out of thin air, to put it that way. Not within a conventional as well as overall context. And before I go, in regards to what I said earlier regarding heavy-handed illnesses, if you still decide to use it for a heavy illness, like I said, a seemingly something that can potentially be life-threatening, or anything like that, then the pentacle will go to work in quite an aggressive manner. Um, and lastly, again, before I go, um, other than just applying it to the afflicted part, like the description says, um, a tattoo is practical if you wanted to work with this thing in the long term. Um, you need to find some way. I can't really come up with an example other than my tattoo. You need to come up with a way to simply keep it on you, okay, at all times. I could also say just have it printed out like a sticker and then stick it to your clothing, but you take your clothing off even at some point. Um, One other idea that comes to mind is a necklace, similar to the necklace that I'm wearing, um, of my number one spirit, the Archangel Sandalphon. Um, you can create a similar pinnacle, or I mean, a similar necklace, and have it created for you, and then simply wear it non-stop. Like I mean, literally non-stop, because wear mine non-stop. I don't take it off, like in the shower, etc. Nothing. I've been wearing this for I think years now, at least 2 years, a year or two, and I literally haven't taken it off because I can't take it off. Like even if I try, I can't. It would take me, I think, at least 15 minutes or half an hour to like fumble with it until I can finally take it off. But I don't want to take it off. So yeah, I sleep with it, everything. So that's just to give you an idea. That's all, bye.